October 7, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. Here's what the chart looked like today. There was no economic data that came out to really move the market, and it showed because today was a really slow, very choppy, kind of noisy kind of day. There wasn't very many setups that I could find. A lot of, well, not a lot, but there's most of the setups that I found were almost setups, and there was probably, I think, two decent setups that I found, and then another, I think, aggressive setup. So this is what the market looked like. It was a sell-off. It hit this very long consolidation, lasted almost 4 full hours. Then it sold off in this choppy fashion, but I couldn't really find a good, clean, overall, I guess, dominating channel to fit everything in. So I was playing, as I have been for these last few days, these smaller trend channels. And so, yeah, I took no trades today, unfortunately. It was just kind of a choppy, quiet, not easiest to read type of day. So let's get into the charts. This is the pre-market is sold off, and then it rallied. Looked like there was two legs here, but I don't trade the pre-market, so it didn't really matter. You come along, you do have a second entry long here, but second entry long is a bad signal bar, and it's an inside bar, so I'm just leaving this alone. Plus, it already broke the orange up channel and tested the high. So one attempt up, second attempt up, or this could be seen as one big leg and a potential further push to the downside. At this point, it was clearly ranging. So I saw this as a failed breakout coming back in, and I trusted this trading range a little bit more, but there was no setups here. Technically, you have a second entry short here, but you just came from a failed breakout. So my expectation is this failed breakout is going to push back into the range and test the highs. So when I see this, I'm not thinking short yet. Kind of bounces, kind of oscillates, moves sideways. You technically have a new high here. It's the first entry long, second entry long, but you're also playing range rules. So the second entry long is a little iffy. When I see this, I'm thinking more likely it hit the top side of the range. It's coming back down to the bottom. So yes, you do have a second entry long here, but I'm reluctant to even take a long because the follow-up trigger bar doesn't look that good. Because it could just be one push up, one attempt up, maybe another push back down to here. So no trade here that I could see. And this is actually what sets up for the first trade that I thought was probably a possible and a decent trade. Or after, in hindsight, looking at the whole day, this is probably one of the trades that were worth taking. So you had a fail breakout here. You have a corresponding fail breakout here. You have a new low here. It's a first entry short, pullback, potential second entry short. But you also have this green up channel that broke and tested the high. The way I saw it is, even though it's in the range, if you kind of zoom in on the micro scale or zoom in closer, you see a green up channel break, tested the high, made a second attempt up. So it is a first entry short, second entry short above the EMA, but the EMA itself doesn't really matter because if it's kind of horizontal, I mean, it is showing some bias, but it's not as critical right now because price action isn't respecting it. It just kind of pushes up and below it. So I'm watching this and I'm thinking there's a potential short here. I ideally wanted this to confirm and break below this guy, but you don't get that. And now you do. So when I saw this, I'm thinking, okay, for sure, this is a lower high, second entry short. If I were to try to enter this, I'd probably put it at one tick below this guy. And it would have worked because it's pushing back through and into the trading range. And even if I was concerned that this top of the range could actually be a support as a failed breakout pullback, you have enough room. Fortunately, I wasn't fast enough and I didn't jump on this trade. And kind of keeps pushing. You hit this very interesting section here where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 attempts to break above this line. So even though it's the way I have it drawn is outside my trading range, I saw the top resistance as kind of a zone. So this isn't necessarily the red line in the sand, and this isn't really the red line, but you do see there is kind of a zone region here. So I was very curious to see if this would break through because it made a very strong attempt, then it finally reversed. So I was looking for a new low, first entry short, hoping for a second entry short, but unfortunately you don't get one till about right here. But after this big signal bar, I wasn't even thinking of short at this time. I was just like, this is a little messy. Just wait for the price action to give you something better. It gets choppy, comes, pushes back up, and it creates what I consider an almost trade. Again, on the micro scale, you have a new low here. It's a first entry short, pullback, potential second entry short here. You also have a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. Matches the highs here, but it's also hitting the resistance of the top of the trading range. So I call it an almost trade is because it did push up, break, made one attempt up, made a second attempt up. Second attempt up, fell short, but I'm not too eager necessarily right now to think of going short because the Sigma bar isn't that great. It's kind of neutral. So it's more likely I'm thinking a second entry short, potential fail second entry long. That's not confirmed yet, but look for a lower high. And unfortunately, you don't get that. And after this big flush down, I'm just kind of sitting back on the sidelines because you want the lower high roughly about here, continuation, but it already pushed back to the other side. So I'm not thinking of going short anymore. Prices then keep chopping. Again, it pushes up on this green up channel, breaks, tests the new highs, made two attempts up. But this is very congested. If you look at these candles, they're about the same size and side by side. So I'm not that excited on jumping on anything here. Then it pushes down on this green down channel, and it creates, so right here, you have this green down channel. Now, depending on how you drew it, you could have an overshoot here, or if you drew it a little bit more wider here, then you don't actually have a break here. And so I actually saw this in real time, and I wasn't sure which one that I had. So in hindsight, I think it was a decent trade setup to have taken, but I didn't have the confidence or the trend channel drawn this way at that point. So you do have a break here, and this is actually a new high here. It's a first entry long all the way down to second entry long, and then technically you have a third entry long. But you can also see it as one big push down, an overshoot, and made one attempt up. Now, you're thinking that prices probably want to test this low, but not after this first break. So I'm thinking after this break, if it was drawn like this, it'd make two attempts up, then continue back down. So there was a higher low here, but I think you had to have been quick and you had to have drawn the channel the way I have it here, which I didn't. So I had unfortunately missed it. But if you did take this, this is a really big candle though. This is a 15 tick candle. And you do have enough room to the EMA, and you have enough room before you hit the bottom of this trading range. But the trading range itself is a little, it could be debated on whether this is going to be holding or not because it acted as support and maybe acted as resistance, but this will be the first time it does. So potential long trade here. Unfortunately, as I said, the way I had it drawn myself was I don't think I had it drawn this tightly. I think I had it a little bit wider like this. And so I think I had it something like this. So I didn't have a break yet. So I thought it was going to come back down and test the lows. But if you had it drawn closer to this, you'd already have the break, and it could be making two attempts up. So potential long here. I also saw a potential hunch trade here. It's a new low, first entry short. Technically, I have a second entry short, and I thought this could have been considered a lower high, even though it makes a double matching top. It did break out of this orange up channel and test the high, but I don't have enough experience or justification to just take a short here. Plus, the candle itself is a bit neutral with the body toward the center. Then prices just kind of chop, and I do see another higher low here. But this higher low, I actually call this an almost trade because you do have a new high here, first entry long pullback, second entry long, higher low. Now the difference between this higher low and this higher low is, okay, you do have two clear legs down. So it could be this break, one attempt up, two legs down, and then you have a higher low here. The thing I didn't like about this higher low, in real time, you see that it pushed to the top and then it pulled back. So there's too much wick here for my comfort to trust that it's going to push up again. And I also was thinking it might be in this green down channel. Even though there's two legs here, it could be this part of this bigger green down channel, which means this could act as resistance and flush it back down. So I considered it an almost trade. In this case, it would have worked out, but I'm not confident that this is high probability. So I left it alone. Prices kind of move up and it gets choppy again. It creates a second entry short here. Now I thought this is a possible trade, but I do consider it aggressive because it does make a new low here, makes a first entry short, pullback, second entry short. You have break of this green down channel, two attempts up, so that's great. Break of this green channel, two attempts up. You're expecting a test of the low. This is a characteristic that I really like in a setup. It made one tick up and then flushed out, engulfed the previous candle and closed at the low. So this is I think it's a possible trade. It's aggressive because this is a rather large candle. This is 17 ticks. So to create a proper stop loss, you have to put one tick higher than that. And your entry might be at the lows or one tick below. So already you're taking on two more ticks of risk unless you took this on the engulfing as it pushed past this guy. Now, I don't think I would have taken it on the engulfing because it's already a very large candle, but everything is going for it. You know, it needs to test a new low, two attempts up. A trend correction may have played out and it's pushing back down. So the prices continue moving. It gets noisy, and these candles just get really tiny now, and it flushes down. This is another setup, but I consider it an almost trade just because it wasn't the cleanest. So technically, you have a new low, comes back down, it creates a localized new low, made first entry short, pull back, potential second entry short, but these two candles are the same size, same highs, and same lows. The close and open are just reversed. Now, the way I had this drawn previously, it looked a little closer to this. So I didn't know that I had a break or not. But then later when I tweaked it, I thought it could have been tighter with a break and tested the new high. So nevertheless, it is a first entry short, second entry short. It just wasn't the cleanest. I did like that it pushed below the EMA, but it closed pretty much as a mirror opposite of this guy. And I needed at least one tick below. But when this occurred, I was thinking, okay, well, there's still a chance to go short if I find a lower high, but you don't get a lower high till about here. And by that time, the trade has already run away. So it almost set up and no trade there. It's this consolidation area. EMA is starting to show and act as resistance to price action. It hits this bottom area and it starts reversing. So I'm thinking a fail breakout here for potential push back in. And it sets up this last setup, which I think is a possible trade. So you have a new low of the day too. Say first entry short, pull back, second entry short right here. You also have a new high, first entry long. So here it confirms your second entry short, but the second entry short itself looks like it's about to fail. So you have a new low, first entry short, second entry short, it's about to fail. You have a new high, first entry long, unconfirmed, second entry long. But I do like this potentially bouncing off the EMA. It's a breakout, but it could be a breakout pullback because it looked like it's floating pretty well above the EMA. This is one leg down, consolidation, and a potential second leg down. It could be seeing a two-leg correction. So I was thinking this could potentially be the first leg, and this could be setting up for the second leg. So when this one formed and it created the second entry long, failed second entry short, I considered it a close enough bounce off the EMA that there's a potential trade here. So the only way to enter it would, in my opinion, is not the highs here where you're pressing against the localized high, but would be the high above this guy. And you wouldn't, in my case, it's debatable whether I would have gotten filled because it would have opened here, flushed down, maybe or maybe not pick you up, and then push back up. So possible trade, unfortunately, I was not on it. And at this point, I wasn't even thinking of taking a trade at this, trying to get a trade at this point because the day is already too long and it was going into the close. So kind of how I saw the charts today. Unfortunately, there was, I think, two decent setups that I wasn't able to get on. And the rest of them were just kind of almost setups. And it was a little bit choppy, but not that much setting up for us. So hopefully that was helpful.